Hi everybody, I'm Jackie, and we're talking all things red flags, respect, and relationships. In church. Yep, we're talking about navigating sex and relationships in a way that honors God, others, and ourselves. That includes the red flags we want to notice and avoid, the respect we want to give and receive, and the relationships we want to have with people who care about and support us. Why are we talking about that stuff? Because we know that when it comes to sex and relationships, sometimes things can be unclear. It's hard to know what's okay and what's not, what's good for us and what's not, what's a red flag and what's something we can respect. Believe it or not, I think church is the best place to have these conversations. It's a safe place to process what you're thinking and feeling and express the struggles, questions, and doubts you have about any of it. Before we get into things, I want to tell you a quick story about a time I was totally obsessed with something. In middle school, the coolest thing to have was something called a Tamagotchi. This was just like a little computer with a little creature that you had to feed, take it to bed, give it sunlight. The whole idea was to keep it alive, and I was obsessed. I had to take this to school, to church, even have it next to me in bed just to make sure I didn't kill my little Tamagotchi. And let me just tell you, I killed this thing more than once. You could argue that I was just really passionate about my Tamagotchis. But honestly, I think it was more than that. I wasn't just all about it, I was borderline obsessed. You can see the little angel because I killed it. Well, it died because I forgot to pick up its poop. And apparently you have to clean up its poop like it's a dog, and I didn't and it died. I can't believe I killed it after one day. Maybe you're passionate about things like gaming, social media, school, a dating relationship, theater, sports, your pet, baking or cooking, your friends, being outside, art, Netflix, fashion, music. There's nothing wrong with being passionate about stuff like this. In fact, there's nothing wrong with being passionate at all. The problems start when our passions become obsessions. See, a passion is typically a love and excitement for something that doesn't cause us to ignore everything else in our lives. It usually makes the other parts of our lives better. We're all about it, but we can also walk away from it. When you're passionate about the school musical you're in, you practice a lot and work hard to be the best singer or actor for the role. But when it's time to focus on your schoolwork, you can take a break and do it. You can step away from what you're passionate about with no problem. An obsession, on the other hand, has a way of taking over our lives. It controls our thoughts and motivates our actions. It's what we think about all the time and the first thing we consider when making a decision. It impacts all other areas of our lives, usually not in good ways. When you're obsessed with social media, you spend most of your day planning or posting. You zone out of in-person conversations with friends to focus on the likes you're getting behind the screen. Your mind is always wondering what people are thinking about what you just posted. Even though social media can be awesome, the obsession you have with it is impacting your real life and real relationships in not so great ways. That's because obsessions have a way of controlling us. They motivate us to do things we probably wouldn't do otherwise. We're willing to get in trouble, lose friends, or make choices we might regret, all because we want to give all our time and energy to one thing, our obsession. You might be thinking, what does this have to do with sex and relationships? Great question. Remember that we're talking about desires in this series, which are strong feelings of wanting to have something or do something. Specifically, we're talking about sexual desires, which are the sexual things we feel, think about, or want to do. If we're not careful, those desires can become more than just desires. They can become obsessions. They can control us and lead us to make decisions that aren't the best for us. They can move us away from respect in our relationships and a lot closer to some major red flags. Of course, I don't want any of that for any of us. I want us all to have healthy ways of dealing with our sexual desires. I want us to avoid falling into the trap of obsession. To help with that, we're going to read something written a long time ago by a man named Paul. When he was alive, Paul spread the word about Jesus and what it meant to follow him. Part of the way he did that was by writing letters to other Christians to encourage them and help them keep living God's best for their lives. Today, we're going to look at one of those letters found in the Bible. Let's check it out. I'm allowed to do all things, but not everything is good for me to do. Even if I'm free to do all things, I will not do them if I think it would be hard for me to stop when I know I should. Basically, what Paul was saying is, yeah, I have the freedom to do anything I want, but all that stuff I want to do, it's not all good for me. So even though I can do it, I'm not going to do it if it's hard for me to give it up. I can definitely relate to what Paul wrote here. I know exactly what it feels like to be really excited about having the freedom to do something I really want to do. But I also know I have to be careful to keep what I'm passionate about from becoming an obsession that controls me. The older you get, the more opportunities you begin to have too. Think about one thing you're allowed to do now that you weren't allowed to do in elementary school. Now, think about a freedom you really want right now, but can't have until you get to high school. As we get older, we gain more freedoms. Some of those freedoms have to do with dating and relationships. These freedoms aren't necessarily bad or things you shouldn't do, but they are things you have to be careful about. They're things that can go from freedom to obsession if we're not careful. Obsession has a way of blurring the line between what we can do and what we should do. Even if it's something good for us, when it becomes an obsession, it can begin to control us. All that freedom we're so excited about having as we grow up, all the freedom God gives us to choose what's healthy and good for us, well, we're letting that freedom slip away when we let an obsession take over. I think this is what Paul was getting at. God cares about what we do with our freedom. It's not that God doesn't want you to be passionate about anything or attracted to anyone. In fact, it's the opposite. God wants you to have a great, big, amazing, full life every day. That full life includes the way you think about and respond to things like sexual desires and relationships. I know this is true because Jesus said it himself while he was on earth. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. God wants you to have a full and exciting life. God wants us to be people who are passionate and excited about the things we get to experience. Remember, God created you to experience sexual desires, but God also calls us to respond to those with sexual integrity, which means choosing to respond to the sexual things we feel, think, and desire in a way that respects others, God, and ourselves. And part of choosing sexual integrity is not choosing to do things we know aren't good for us just because we can. It's choosing not to give in to an obsession that threatens our ability to honor ourselves, others, and God. Because God cares about what we do with our freedom. What does that mean for you and me, specifically when it comes to sex and relationships? If we want to live the free and full lives God wants for us, we need to start being honest about where we might be giving too much control to things that aren't helpful or healthy for us. I think we've got to get real about our obsessions. So let's start here. First, red flags. Recognize the obsession. How can we know when a passion has turned into an unhealthy obsession? Well, we can start by looking at what consumes and controls our time and thoughts. If it's taking us away from other important things or people, it probably has become an obsession. To help, ask yourself this question. Are you so obsessed with a person, place, or thing that you can't say no to anything about it? If so, that may be a red flag that you're moving towards an unhealthy obsession. Second, respect. Create boundaries. Find some balance and set limits to help you and others give and receive the respect we all deserve. This may mean you have to make some tough choices, like breaking up with your significant other, or putting some parental controls on your phone, or limiting your screen time. Will it be easy? Not at first. But setting boundaries to avoid obsession and making wiser choices will always be worth it. And third, relationships. Acknowledge the effect. It's important to know that an obsession doesn't just impact you, it impacts other people too. In order to better honor God, ourselves, and others, we have to acknowledge the way our obsessions might be affecting others. Developing healthy thoughts and behaviors when it comes to sex and dating is just one way we can not only honor God and ourselves, but also love and respect the relationships we have. As you head out, I encourage you to talk to a trusted adult about how you may be dealing with an obsession. Maybe for you that's a parent, a family member, or even your group leader. I know a conversation like that takes a lot of courage, but I also know the trusted adults in your life love and care about you. They want to help you navigate stuff like this well. If that person for you is your small group leader, I hope you'll be brave enough to take that step and open up to them today. I know they'll support, help, and encourage you no matter what.